Okay, well, Gotham is back, and I'd be lying if I said I was on the edge of my seat waiting for Gotham to come back. Even though the previous episode, I believe everyone has a Cobblepot is what it was. Even though the previous episode really impressed me on a lot of levels, this episode returned to the just complete serviceability, the complete adequacy of this show, and at worst the sort of mediocre aspects of this show. But at the same time, a large chunk of it was above average. It was really, really compelling. So, so I'll explain in a second. But basically, the plot of this is there's a Gordon is contacted by this younger police officer who basically asks him, can you take this case off our hands? I mean, this case we're getting nowhere with it. So could you take over the investigation? I mean, it's this case of these women being killed, or this woman who was killed, and we didn't get anywhere with it. So Gordon recruits Bullock to help him on this case, and it turns out that this is the work of a serial killer named the Ogre. And basically, the Ogre, the reason that no one has caught him yet, I mean, he's killed more than like a dozen women. The reason no one has caught him yet is because whenever a cop gets on his trail, he goes after the people close to the cop. So this is a spoiler. At the end of the episode, we learned that this was all a ruse by Commissioner Loeb, who Gordon blackmailed in the previous episode. This was all a plot by Loeb to strike back at Gordon for as an act of sort of retaliation for what Gordon did to him in the previous episode, how Gordon strong armed him in the previous episode. So that was a twist that not only was that a twist I really liked, but the villain, who is played by Milo Ventimiglia, who I'm sorry I'm not all that familiar with this guy's filmography. The only thing I know him from is Jess from Gilmore Girls. Um, he is, without hyperbole, probably one of, if not the most menacing villain on this show thus far. And the reason I say that is because he's not a cartoon character. When you see Milo Ventimiglia as the Ogre, he doesn't have any sort of special gimmick. He doesn't have any sort of over the top performance, or he's not constantly. They're not hitting you over the head with the fact that, oh, get it, he's a Batman villain. He's a Batman villain. No, no. When he's on screen, he seems like an actual serial killer. And in a show like this, that's actually pretty effective, I must say. Because basically what his deal is that he gets into a relationship with a woman. He's constantly searching for the one. He's searching for the one that he wants to spend the rest of his life with, his one true love. And basically, he when he meets a woman, he says, all I ask is, unconditional love. That's all I want. I mean, I'm looking for the one. But what that what that entails, unbeknownst to the women that he meets, is that they can't leave his house. Basically, what he does immediately after the first date, after the first night, he keeps them locked up in his house. I mean, there are a bunch of flashbacks involving what he did to his most recent victim. I think Fairchild was her name, something Fairchild. But he basically has her handcuffed to the table, and is talking about how is making her cook dinner, and she's basically saying I I think I overcooked the meat. And he says, and basically you could see written plain on his face the the looks of judgment, which are responded to by looks of just intense fear on the part of Fairchild. So that was really effective, and basically his deliveries are just so cold and so devoid of emotion. Not in the sense that he did a bad job performance wise, no, but he just. I'm trying to find a good comparison. Think of the knight at the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, how a lot of his lines were very empty, very almost hollow. A lot of Milo Ventimiglia's deliveries in this are like that, and again, it's very effective. And he basically says, it's not working out. So he basically takes a picture of the women, puts the picture on the wall, and kills the women. I mean, gets rid of them. So yeah, the fact that they do not try and hit you over the head with the fact that this guy is going to become a Batman villain like the Ogre. That's really as far as they go. Nicknaming him the Ogre. They don't really do anything with him aside from again nicknaming him that. Whether or not they will, as this arc goes on, I don't know. But I'm so glad that they did not get rid of him after one episode, because he really is an effective villain. He's unsettling. He's very. I mean, at the best of times, he's actually kind of terrifying. Really good job on the part of Milo Ventimiglia, and again, really good twist in regards to the Loeb, the Commissioner Loeb ploy. So yeah, the stuff with Gordon and Bullock and them tackling this particular case and and dealing with the ramifications of it, both moral and in terms of their own safety, was really strong this episode, stronger than usual. And the stuff with Bruce Wayne and Selina, and how Bruce is not only dealing with the pain of Alfred being stabbed, but also dealing with feelings of anger and a desire for retaliation against Reggie, Alfred's old buddy, who has fallen on some hard times. Bruce and Selina go to this guy and basically tell him we're going to make you tell us who sent you to Wayne Manor. Who sent you to Wayne Manor? And he tells them, and basically this is where it got a little dark. Up until that point, it was serviceable. I was kind of thinking, okay, well, Bruce Wayne isn't doing anything too unbelievable, and Selina Kyle is decent as usual. But then it unexpectedly turns really dark with very little build-up, in the sense in that he's Reggie is reaching out the window because they took his medicine, I think it was, and put it on a platform outside the window, and he basically says, "I'm going to tell on you. I'm going to tell the people who hired me that you are sniffing it, that you're sniffing around." And basically Bruce Wayne kind of seems like he's going to push him out the window, but then he stops. But then Selina just pushes him out the window without a second's hesitation. And I'm thinking, good God. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of this, writers of Gotham, but there's a difference between street thief and cold-blooded murderer. So I actually thought that was really needlessly dark, in all honesty. But again, I might get disagreements. And yeah, the stuff that did not work in this episode was everything having to do with Fish Mooney. I am so glad. Assuming I stick around for Season 2, which I'm still kind of debating on whether or not I will. Assuming I even stick around for Season 2, I am so glad that Jada Pinkett Smith is going to be off this show at the end of this season, because she adds nothing to the show. And what irritates me is that the writers of this show seem to think like they have this really compelling, really entertaining character on their hands, and she's just not. She's not. And her little adventures on this island with the doll maker and all of his minions, I could not give a crap about. I'm sorry. Now, what would have actually, maybe it's because I have the plot twists of Vikings on the mind, but her little ploy of escaping and recruiting these dangerous guys as a sort of diversion. What I was actually thinking they were going to do was have her organize the escape attempt and then help stop it, and that would gain the dollmaker's trust, or enhance her status in that prison indefinitely. But it turns out it really was an escape attempt. It's just that the 4 guys that she originally recruited were just a diversion to lure the soldiers away from the helicopter. So yeah, in that sense, it was a decent twist, and it wasn't. It's far from the worst material I've seen them give Fish Mooney, but again, the damage has already been done. I don't care about her character. Jada Pinkett Smith is terrible in this show, and her sections still really drag the show down, and that's really what drug this episode down. Because for every, I generally enjoyed this episode to a point overall, mostly because of Gordon and Bullock dealing with the Ogre and Commissioner Loeb and their storyline. And Bruce and Selena, I was tolerating up until the end, but Jada Pinkett and Fish Mooney just completely brought this episode down. Although the Penguin making a move against Maroney, and how they didn't reveal that until the end of the episode, that was actually pretty cool. And again, I like how they're not just having the Penguin sit around like he's already gotten all the development he's going to get until Batman rolls around. So having the Penguin actually make a move or start to make a move against Maroney has me curious as to where it's going to go from there. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this episode of Gotham. And is there an episode next week? I don't know. I guess you'll find out.